So here we go. Hold on to your seats because we're about to go deeper and it's going to get crazy. So we're going to start by heading on back to John Jr. in the 1920s. Remember, John D Rockefeller II. That's John Jr. And we're going to go back to the 1920s. Now, we know John Jr. had a hand in the creation of the League of Nations and the Council on Foreign Relations. Again, we talked all about that. Those are Rockefeller organizations through and through. But something else significant took place about the same time. And that was in 1921. The Rockefeller Foundation brought on a guy by the name of Raymond Fosdick as a board member and a trustee of the Rockefeller Foundation. So let's take a look. Here is Raymond Fosdick. Raymond had already had an obsession with the Rockefeller stooge Woodrow Wilson. And so we've already discussed Woodrow Wilson, how that dude, he was selected, not elected, in order to do the Rockefeller bidding behind the scenes and to bring about the League of Nations. Well, one of the people that was obsessed with Woodrow Wilson happened to be Raymond here. And Raymond was involved in the creation of the League of Nations and eventually became the Rockefeller Foundation's fourth president from 1936 to 1948. So Raymond was in the family, so to say, or the house. We'll call it the Rockefeller house. He was in it. He was all wrapped up in it. He was obviously drinking the Kool-Aid. I guess that's what the hip people say. I don't know. But that's what it was. So he was already involved with that. But a year later, something else much more important happened, and Raymond's brother, Harry Fosdick, would begin a massive controversy with a sermon some may know as Shall the Fundamentalists Win? You get bonus points if you've heard this thing before, but here's Harry. That's Raymond. There's Harry. Harry is Raymond's brother, and this dude was a Presbyterian minister, and he was a preacher. But in 1922, he preached a sermon that caused massive controversy called Shall the Fundamentalists Win? Harry was ordered as a Baptist minister. He was ordained as a Baptist minister, but he was preaching at a Presbyterian church. I don't know. Ordained as a Baptist minister and taught at Union Theological Seminary from 1908 to 1946. He also graduated from Union Theological Seminary, or UTS, to make it a little bit simpler. So in 1919, he became associate pastor, but it was in May of 1922 that battle lines were drawn and the shot was fired. He preached the sermon, Shall the Fundamentalists Win? So there's that. He preached it May 21st, 1922. Now, I've heard vague rumblings of this thing, but I didn't really look into it. This thing caused a massive divide, not only in New York where he was at, but across the United States. Because this was one of the key movements of the progressive liberal Christian, pretty much. This is what really split it up, and we'll see in just a second how the Rockefellers, through this, actually helped create an even larger ecumenical movement that really led to the horrific modern church that we see today. And you'll see, this is why we're talking about this. This is why this is so important. It was this sermon where he was denounced as a liberal modernist. See, Harry believed that Christianity is progressive and that over time it was to develop, reshape, and change. Does that sound familiar? We're seeing that in, I'll go ahead and say it, most churches now, not just in the United States, but across the world, where they think Christianity is ever changing. It evolves over time. It progresses. And it was about this time where things really started to skyrocket. It was happening before, but it was right now when it started to really skyrocket and move forward in this movement. As we know, this is just straight up apostasy and false teaching. But ultimately, it's this foundation that led to modern church and the mystery religion that we see today. Hopefully I didn't skip a page. I did not. We're good. So, again, this caused massive rifts, which led to Harry resigning from First Presbyterian Church in New York City in 1925. He basically became under investigation from the General Assembly of the Presbyterian Church. And he just, because of the heat, he decided to resign in 1925. Now, Harry eventually joined Park Avenue Baptist Church just a couple months after this, which is connected to American Baptist Church USA, as well as the United Church of Christ. John Jr., here we go. This is where it starts kicking off here. John Jr. was a trustee of Park Avenue and went on to finance Harry's next church called Riverside Church. Hold on to yourself. No expense was spared. This is Riverside Church, New York City. This is the bastion of progressive unification religion. And this thing was financed by the Rockefellers. Oh yes. Not good. This church was built to expand the mystery religion agenda, the same type of agenda that the Rockefellers believed in. Remember, we have discussed how this stuff is literally the stuff that they believe in. John Jr. believes in this. Nelson believes in this. Eileen believes in this. Lawrence believes in this. Stephen Clark believes in this. And if you even want to take it back even further to John D Rockefeller I, even he believed in this. So this just isn't, some crusade to destroy the church out of hatred. No, this is a crusade to destroy the church because they believe in this mystery religion. That's why they're getting this stuff done. Also worth noting that the bell that sits in the bell tower of that church is named after John Jr.'s mother. What's her name? Laura Spellman. That's right. I got it written down and I still couldn't remember it. But yeah, so again, you've got Harry Fosdick, who's one of the main guys who helped explode the progressive liberal modern church Christianity that we see today. Christianity in quotes, you know what I mean? But he teamed up with the Rockefeller in order to create this thing and really let it rip at this point. This church came after John Jr.'s large donations to St. John the Divine Cathedral as well. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. We understand what they were trying to do with that church as well. So if you don't quite believe me on that, let's just go straight to the horse's mouth, shall we? Rockefeller Brothers Fund. This is on their website. And we can see it right here. The Riverside Church, organized in 1841 as the Norfolk Street Baptist Church. That's part of Park Avenue. It changed names over a long period of time. Later becoming Fifth Avenue Baptist Church and the Park Avenue Baptist Church. It was the home congregation of John D Rockefeller Jr., John Jr., and his family. In 1930, it transferred to a new building on Riverside Drive. They don't say it in here, but it's true. They financed the construction of that thing. Planned and financed by John Jr. well before establishing the Rockefeller Brothers Fund. This is the how, honestly, when it comes to, we'll get back to this in just a second. This is the how of the repercussions of the church that we see today. Now, there's other things that took place that helped explode this apostasy, this falling away, the modern church that we see today. Yeah, I'm not going to put it all on this, but this was a huge event in order to destroy the church in America. And it's not because, it's not the from the wily guy with the thing where he puts the lady who's tied up on the ropes on the tracks, trying to I'm going to destroy it. No, this is because they firmly believe in this stuff and they wanted it to grow. They were, I guess you could say, drunk with mysteries fornication. I mean, that's what the Bible says. He seduces people to do her bidding. Sure looks like it to me. All right, let's get back to this. Let's see here. Their annual giving was consolidated through the fund beginning in 1941 and continued into the 1970s. The RBF also, and that's Rockefeller Brothers Fund, also made gifts to Riverside's several major building expansions. Established as a non-denominational church welcoming all believers in Christ, the Riverside Church has had a strong presence in the ecumenical movement. Oh, really? In liberal theology. Oh, there it is. And in social justice campaigns. Oh, I thought that was just politics, including the anti-war, anti-death penalty, and immigration rights movements. It has served as a speaking forum for Martin Luther King Jr., who also spoke at St. John the Divine Cathedral. We'll talk about Martin Luther King Jr. in just a second here. Cesar Chavez, Desmond Tutu, and Nelson Mandela. We talked a lot about those last two names, too, the past few weeks. Guys, this is how it spread. This is how it took down. I'm not going to speak for other countries around the world because we understand, we know what's going on over there. But this is how it took down the Church of the United States. Again, I'm not placing it all on this. There was other things happening, obviously. But this is one of the huge pinnacle moments where it started destroying churches left and right and bringing in what people would claim as politics, but in actuality, this is mystery religion agenda pieces. Your social justice, racial justice, open borders, all this stuff. Alphabet agenda comes from this. Comes from this. And would you believe that it started with that guy? With that sermon. It's crazy, right? We're just getting started. We're just getting started. So strap in, guys. Here we go. I told you we'd talk about him in just a second. Here we go. Let's talk about the connection of Harry to MLK. Now, this is coming straight from MLK Jr., the Research and Education Institute. Harry Emerson Fosdick, the founding minister of Riverside Church in New York City, was regarded by Martin Luther King Jr. as the greatest preacher of this century. One of liberal, Protestantism, it's the best you can get, most influential voices, Fosdick was a proponent of ecumenical Christianity, pacifism, and civil rights, whose radio sermons and writings reached millions. King frequently drew on themes and passages from Fosdick's sermons. Let's take a look at the direct words from MLK, shall we? King inscribed a copy of Stride to Fosdick, minister emeritus of New York's Riverside Church. He said, "If I were called upon to select the greatest preacher of this century, I would choose your name." This is MLK speaking directly to Fosdick. "If I were called upon to select the foremost prophets of our generation, I would choose you to head the list. If I were called upon to select the Christian saints of our day, again, I would have to place you on that list, because all of those things and the inspiration that you've been to me, I present you with this book." Yikes. Things aren't always as they seem, guys. Things aren't always as they seem. And honestly, for me, it's no surprise that MLK would, of course, team up with an activist and a liberal progressive and all that stuff when you look into the history and the beliefs of MLK. But I know he's still regarded as one of these people that people look up to. He's not. Now, a couple things else that's not proper English, but I already started the sentence and that's just where it's going. A couple other things about Fosdick is he was an active member of American Friends of the Middle East. Well, that doesn't include Israel and the Jews, by the way, because he was also the co-founder of the Committee for Justice and Peace in the Holy Land, which their entire goal was to get together to oppose the establishment of Israel in 1948. That's what they were there. They were lobbying to oppose that because Fosdick was an anti-Zionist. Where have we heard that before? Yep. But it doesn't stop there. It wasn't just Harry's progressivism and controversial statement or sermon that he made But it was in 1923 when Harry began to get investigated by the General Assembly of the Old Presbyterian Church in the United States for his other views, which included the Bible is not the literal word of God. Keep in mind, MLK looked up to this guy and said he was top of the class. Fosdick believed that the Bible is not or was not the literal word of God. Fosdick also believed Christianity is evolving and changing and that science and philosophy is needed to, quote unquote, fix the Bible. Now, question is, who decided to be Harry's defense during this investigation? Here is where it gets wild. That would be none other than John Foster Dulles. If the name kind of sounds vaguely familiar, but you're not quite sure, his brother, Alan Dulles, was the CIA director, and he was the one that was behind Operation Paperclip and MK Ultra. That's right. The man who defended Harry Fosdick is the brother of the CIA guy who did Operation Paperclip, which brought all of the Nazi scientists into the United States and into the CIA illegally, as well as all of the different projects of MK Ultra that really have a spiritual background behind every single one that they were doing, which was also against the Jews. So it should come as no shock that Alan's brother, John Foster Dulles, would be the one to defend somebody who held the same views. I told you guys, these things are all connected. They're not happenstance. They're not coincidence. This is legitimate stuff that you just, there's no possible way that somebody named Harry Fosdick who preached this sermon about shall we let the fundamentalists win, would be connected to a guy who helped bring in Nazi scientists into the CIA after World War II. How on earth? The mystery, isn't it? You weren't expecting that now, were you? Because I wasn't. So John Foster Dulles, or JFD to make it easier, was an elder of the church, with his father being Alan Mason, JFD was an elder of the church with his father, Macy Dulles, who was a liberal Presbyterian minister and professor. Basically, he was trying to take over what his father was doing. And so his father was already high up in the church. He was a minister, he was a teacher, he was a professor. And so John Foster Dulles was following in his footsteps and being an elder in the Presbyterian church as well. Now, JFD was connected with the Rockefeller House and was part of Woodrow Wilson's legal counsel during 1919 Paris Peace Conference that led to the League of Nations. So here we go. We got another connection here to the Rockefellers. JFD, Dulles here, was a part of the same conference that created the League of Nations, which we understand that's what the Rockefellers were behind. He also helped, Dulles also helped prepare the UN Charter and was U.S. Secretary of State under President Eisenhower. Now, we're going to be going into, not today, but in the future, a few more things with Eisenhower, because unfortunately, Eisenhower was also a part of the Rockefeller House, as well as he was a close family friend to Barbara Marx Hubbard. Yeah, Eisenhower and her father were business associates and very close friends, and she hung out with Eisenhower all the time. Well, he was also a part of this whole thing as well. It's one big club, I'm telling you. So JFD's brother, Alan Dulles, was the longest tenured director of the CIA, with his uncle by marriage, who was Robert Lansing, being Secretary of State under Woodrow Wilson. So this isn't just once, this isn't just twice, this is multiple times that the Rockefellers and the Dulles family are like this. They are fully in this together. Let's take a look at Alan here. He was the director, longest tenured director of the CIA. He was installed under Eisenhower, but then fired by JFK, which I find it interesting that after JFK was assassinated, it was, I believe, Lyndon B. Johnson, who assigned Alan Dulles to investigate how JFK was assassinated. Find that fascinating. There's a big old story there. We're not going to go into it because we got to stay on subject. But yeah, if you really want to go down a rabbit hole, that's a rabbit hole. But he was the longest tenured director of the CIA. He was also director of Council on Foreign Relations, which again, we know that was created and established by the Rockefellers. He was a legal advisor for the League of Nations. Shock, shock. Associate of the Rockefeller family, Hitler and Mussolini. I bet people didn't realize that. They didn't just know each other. They were friends. Interesting. That's probably why Alan Dulles basically created the Operation Paperclip and MK Ultra programs, which was basically bringing over Hitler's occultic Nazi scientists over to the CIA, bringing the same culture, as well as designing their programs, their occultic programs. Now, there's a lot more we can get into on that guy, but again, that's something else. We got to stay on subject of what we're doing. But clearly, this dude's not good, and he's all in the club. We'll be visiting the CIA again later, especially when we talk about David Rockefeller. That's going to be a project, I'll tell you what. But we're just going to go ahead and cool it on that one, and we're going to flip it over to another member of John Jr.'s Riverside Church, who is senior minister William Sloane Coffin. And I got his picture here somewhere. I'll find that in a second. There it is. Sorry, had that one out of order, but there it is. William Sloane Coffin. This dude was a senior minister at John Jr.'s Riverside Church. Let's take a look. He is a Presbyterian and Church of Christ minister. Again, he was senior minister of Rockefeller's Riverside. He is a member of the Skull and Bones, the Yale Secret Society, chaplain at Yale University. He was also an officer in the CIA. He was president, National Committee for a Sane Nuclear Policy. We're not going to get into that. You can take a look at it if you want to. He was an associate of Martin Luther King Jr., Desmond Tutu, and Nelson Mandela. No shock. As well, he was a social, racial, and sexual orientation activist. This dude was pushing heavy on the side of gay rights and social justice and all these things while being fully wrapped up in the Rockefeller house as well. William Coffin was just as progressive as Harry Fosdick, which was perfect for John Jr.'s massive push for the ecumenical mystery religion. And it's worth noting that William Coffin there, he was invited to Yale's Skull and Bones Secret Society by this guy. If you don't recognize the face, that would be George H.W. Bush. He was a member of the Skull and Bones, as his son was George W. Bush. Well, William Coffin was invited to join because you can't just walk up to a secret society and say, hey, can I join? No, you have to be invited. Well, he was invited by none other than George H.W. Bush to join the secret society of the Skull and Bones. Now, Skull and Bones, or Order 322, is a secret society that was founded in 1832 at Yale University by some of the students there. The secret society is surrounded by death and occultic practices, including the belief that they stole the skull of Apache leader Geronimo. They went and stole his skull, which plays a part in the name, as well as it's to be believed that part of the initiation into the secret society, you must lay naked inside a coffin. Yeah, the home of the society is also called the Tomb as well. And yeah, Skull and Bones, there's a lot there. A lot of the world's elites come from that society. That's a really interesting project to dig into because there is so much, and I hate the term, but it's true in this case. There is a ton of misinformation about the Skull and Bones. It's usually because it's such a known society now, even though it's crazy how a society can be so clamped shut, so mysterious, you still don't know what's going on, but yet be so well known. But it's just, there's so many people out there just throwing out random theories saying that that's really what's going on. So it's a trippy one to go down. I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to lie and pretend like I'm an expert on Skull and Bones. I know some stuff about it. But it's a trip. We might end up touching on it eventually because there is a lot of occultic things surrounding it. We might not. I'm sure this won't be the only time that we make mention of it, but I'm just letting you guys know it is kind of a difficult subject to really understand truly what's going on. You can find a lot of information about it, but is it true? That's the hard part. So I'm just throwing that out there. Let's just keep going with William Coffin because, again, we got to stay on track. So William Coffin's brother-in-law, I forgot that last part. William Coffin's brother-in-law, there we go, was Frank Lindsay, who was part of the OSS, or known as the Office of Strategic Services, which that was the predecessor to the CIA at the time. So again, we got another connection here to the CIA. And Frank Lindsay also helped create the Office of Policy Coordination, which was then merged into the CIA in 1950. But it's William's uncle, Henry Sloane Coffin, that's quite interesting. Let's take a look. There's Henry. He's either drunk on some cold medicine or he's already dead. I'm not sure. But that's not a flattering picture. You can't really find many pictures of good old Henry Sloane Coffin there, but there he is. So this is uncle to Henry Sloane Coffin. I know there's a lot of names and stuff. Just hold with me. If you need to rewind, you can. It'll be there for later. But I'm going somewhere with this, and it's big. So Henry Sloane Coffin. He was a Presbyterian minister. We're seeing Presbyterian a lot here. I know. Presbyterian minister. He was a moderator of the General Assembly of the Presbyterian Church of the USA and was president of the Union Theological Seminary, which is the same university that Harry Fosdick graduated and taught at. So here we go. We got another connection through the school. UTS, Union Theological Seminary. So UTS is a center of indoctrinating students with warped and false teaching with pushing mystery religion agenda. It began that way, and it still is to this day. Let's take a look at today's UTS, shall we, and what they got going on. Let's take a look at their mission and vision. It tells us everything that we need to know. Their mission: progressive theology. Boom, right off the bat, we got the right place. Progressive theology has long taken shape at Union, where faith and scholarship meet to reimagine the work of justice. Oh boy, here we go. Grounded in the Christian tradition and responsive to the needs of God's creation, a Union education prepares its students for committed lives of service to the church, academy, and society. A Union education develops practices of mind and body that foster intellectual and academic excellence, social justice. There it is. In compassionate wisdom. Union forms courageous faith leaders who make a difference wherever they serve. Now let's take it, John, over to the vision. Oh, this one's exciting. Education at UTS is deeply rooted in a critical understanding of the breadth of Christian traditions, yet significantly instructed by the insights of other faiths. It makes connections between these traditions and the most profoundly challenging issues of our contemporary experience, the realities of suffering and injustice, world religious pluralism, red flag word, y'all, the fragility of our planet, and discoveries of modern science. Man, this is exactly what Fosdick was pushing, wasn't it? Exactly. Union envisions a future in which teaching and learning continues to be ecumenical in spirit, supporting a record of academic excellence and a deep commitment to social justice. Union envisions its graduates changing the world by practicing their vocations and with dedication that brings a religiously grounded, not Christ grounded, no, religiously grounded, critical and compassionate presence to the major personal, social, political, and scientific realities of our time. There's your unification, everybody. There's your political talking points, everybody. There's your modern agenda, everybody. There's the future leaders, or actually the current leaders of the modern church today. And you wonder why it's so jacked up? There it is. And you had Fosdick a part of it. You got Henry Sloane Coffin a part of it. And this is just one of them. So we've got the Riverside Church and the explosion of progressive Christianity there. Then you've got leaders of that church who were a part of UTS, which shares the same thing, which is just pumping out people to go lead churches, bringing that stuff with them. That's how mystery of religion spreads. That's how we get to the point that we are today. The falling away of the churches, the creation of social justice agendas, the downfall of church or schools, and the creation of the government and what they're going on. How did we get to this point? Because it all comes from this mystery religion. They are not separate. They are not surface level political talking points. Again, we could throw out wokeism and all these things, but what's going on below that? What is it rooted in? Just like we talk about all the various religions out there, but they're all rooted in the same thing. Let's not talk about that stuff. No, that stuff's boring. I'm not interested in that stuff. Who cares? That's history. Let's just get worked up with the next big headline that pops up. That accomplishes nothing. But when we know what is behind this stuff, we know where it's coming from, we know why it's being created, we can load up, we can ammo up, and go and take this thing head on. Not to beat it. It's not our job. But to go out there informed, well informed with information so we can try and pull people out of it, hand them to Jesus. That's why this is so important. And I'll go as far as to say why Satan doesn't want people talking about this. The connections of John Jr. and the Presbyterian churches play a key part of the ecumenical movement, the unification movement. That's really what that is if you don't know. As well as the World Council of Churches. We'll get there soon. Not tonight, but we're going to get there. Trust me. Now, Henry Sloane Coffin was also a member of Skull and Bones, as well as vice chairman of the Committee for Justice and Peace in the Holy Land. Remember the committee that Harry Fosdick co-founded that was to lobby against Israel becoming a nation in 1948? He was vice chairman of the same committee. He was also part of the anti-Zionist movement. Anybody really surprised by that? The same group of anti-Zionists that Harry Fosdick helped create that opposed Israel, he was a part of. Now, we all good? We okay? We doing all right? I haven't lost you? I apologize if I lost you. I know there's probably some people going like, what? Because I did that. I don't know how many times when I was looking at this. I'm not going to lie. Let's take a breather. 7th inning stretch. You guys ready? A lot of names, a lot of groups. I know, but this is what we do. This is what we do. Let's hit it from a different angle. We're going to stick with Rockefeller, but we're going to hit it from a different angle of the Rockefeller. We're going to take a look at John Jr.'s sister, Edith Rockefeller. So here we go. Edith Rockefeller McCormick, because she was married, was treated by New Age psychologist Carl Jung and was a contributor to the Swiss Psychological Society, was known back then as Zurich Psychological Society. So let's take a look at Edith here. There she is. Doesn't she look so happy? Man, look at that smile. It's just from ear to ear. As we know, Carl Jung, he's part of the New Age movement. He's big into the psychological. He delved into some metaphysical stuff. His name has popped up a couple times. We're not necessarily going to get into him, but he was a part of a lot of the teachings for these New Age people. And so she received help from this guy because she suffered from massive depression. Been there with the depression. I understand that. But she believed the same way that her family did about this push for New Age, this push for mystery religion and these things. So she was a part of this. Now, she married a guy by the name of Harold McCormick. So that's where the McCormick comes from. And he was the son of the creator of the Mechanical Reaper. This dude was big when it comes to the farming stuff. And his father was Cyrus McCormick. There's Cyrus. You got to appreciate his beard. You can at least say that. He's got a good beard. I don't know. Anyways. So Edith Rockefeller, who believes in the same New Age stuff, married his son, and that is Cyrus McCormick there. Now, Cyrus here sat on the board of trustees for Presbyterian Church Seminary, McCormick Theological Seminary in Chicago. And yes, it's named after Cyrus. So we got another connection to the Presbyterian here, another connection to a seminary school. It just keeps going. It just keeps going. So McCormick Theological Society, or MTS, is also rooted in progressive and social justice teaching, just like UTS. If you guys want to go check out their website, you can. There's a lot of stuff. Again, the same talking points, social justice, racial justice, and all that stuff in there. So again, it's built on the same progressive stuff. So across the board, whether it's on John Jr.'s side or Edith's side, man, that's a tough one. It's rooted in the progressive New Age mystery religion stuff. So there's no variation there, whether you want to take it from UTS or MTS. It's all on that. Now, the school is what's important because there's a guy there who taught, he was a professor by the name of William Sadler. And this is where it gets funky. This is where it gets weird. Hang on to this one because this is nuts. So that's William Sadler. He was a lecturer. He was a professor at McCormick Theological Seminary. So here we go with this connection. Sadler was a physician, a surgeon, as well as a psychiatrist, a self-taught psychiatrist at that. Yeah, explain that one. And in 1911, he met a man who was he was receiving messages from cosmic super alien beings psychically. I know. There's a lot when it comes to this. We haven't touched on it yet. Just hang with me. But this is what it's going somewhere. So Sadler, basically, he was trying to connect this with this guy. He was investigating this guy, working with this guy to try and receive these cosmic messages from these beings. And he was writing them down. And It's crazy. These Enlightenment messages were about the cosmos, the universe, and mankind's place in it. And again, he was working with this guy as well as a team of scholars, and they were writing these messages down as this guy was receiving these psychological messages. So I wrote down some of them. Other ones, you have to have some context, so we're not going to get into those. These ones are pretty self-explanatory. These are some of the cosmic messages that we've got from this. Apparently, there's millions of other inhabited planets, millions of them. So that points towards aliens or other beings, which we understand. We've talked about this. The Bible doesn't support that, so we know that's false. Other messages: confirmation of evolutionary origin of mankind or humankind. So this has to do with evolution over billions of years. They believe in this stuff. Intimation of multiple creator deities, or they know them as creator sons. Jesus was a creator son, but there's more of them, a lot more out there actually. And it kind of hints at like Mormonism, where if you do the right things and you follow all the rules, you'll be able to be your own god of your own planet type of thing. That kind of branches into that as well. Then they've got master spirits, which that would fall right in line with the new age belief of ascended masters. Outer space, which means that there's space outside of outer space, and power directors. I'm not sure about that one. We got new concept of a far-flung cosmos. So there's many more of like our universes and our cosmos out there, as well as thought adjusters, which they never seem to get an actual answer of what that means. So when we look at stuff like this, and in the future of this series, we're going to get into some things. It's wild. I'll just say that. But this, again, goes along with the same thing that we've kind of heard before, where you had Alice Bailey, who had her ascended master, the Tibetan, where she would receive visions and instruction from him. It kind of sounds like this is the same thing that's going on with this guy. Helena Blavatsky had her thing as well. There's other people out there that believe that they're getting new knowledge or knowledge from the ascended masters and the people who have ascended through creation and sit above, which again, that falls right in line with Gnosticism, where once you reach enlightenment and awakening, you then can go up there and other people can then get new knowledge and instruction from you at that point. So you're seeing connection again to things from even like New Age and Theosophy and Gnosticism to Mormonism and whatnot. You're seeing how they're all just they all stem from the same thing. They're all rooted. They all have the same foundation, but there's just a different coat of paint on there. And this is pointing in this direction. Sadler and other scholars ended up taking these messages and writing the Urantia Papers, which in 1955 became a New Age book called the Urantia Book, which was published by Chicago-based Urantia Foundation. And this is legit. The Urantia Foundation with the Urantia Book. When it comes to New Age, when it comes to spiritualism, this is their Bible, because the Urantia Foundation teaches that this book is new revelation that sits above the Bible. The Bible is outdated, and this is the new revelation that's coming, that we are to follow. This is legit. I didn't know about this book, honestly, beforehand. And then I started looking into it and seeing what's all involved with it. And again, you can see how it branches into so many different religions. And why does it do that? Because then it can draw all of them into unity, right? because that's what's going to happen. It's the unification of these religions. Let's take a look at the parts of the book, because they're so kind to at least break down parts of this thing. The Urantia Book, the parts of the book. Part 1, the central and super universes, sponsored by Uversa? Yeah, Uversa Corpse. Sorry, couldn't see that for a second. Uversa Corpse of super universe personalities acting by authority of the Overtron Ancient of Days. We don't have enough time to go through and explain what all this stuff means. If you guys really want to check it out, you can. it's crazy. That's a good Saturday night. I'll tell you what. Part 2, the local universe, sponsored by. This is what this stuff's written about. Sponsored by Nebadon Corpse of local universe personalities acting by authority of Gabriel of Salvington. These are, again, if you guys ever dig into like Mormonism and stuff, they've got names like this in that religion as well. I'm telling you. Part 3, the history of Urantia. These papers were sponsored by a core of local universe personalities acting by authority of Gabriel of Salvington. And it brings in the different angles and names in the Bible as well too. Like this is where it gets crazy. Part 4, the life and teachings of Jesus. This group of papers was sponsored by a commission of 12 Urantia midwayers acting under the supervision of a Melchizedek revelatory director. The basis of this narrative was supplied by a secondary midwayer who was one time assigned to the superhuman watch care of the Apostle Andrew. I'm telling you, I know we're just kind of glossing over some of this stuff. This is an entire study on its own. It really is, because this book is, you would say out there, which it is, but when it comes to some of these religions, it's not out there at all. I mean, this stuff is just real to them. I mean, again, you look at some of the stuff of New Age, like theory of mind and stuff, where the only reason why the sky is blue is because everybody thinks it's blue. If everybody thought it was green, all of a sudden it would become green. Well, there's people that actually believe in that stuff. And just like they believe in this book. Now, it goes on, it's talking about how Urantia is like its own cosmos that Michael, the archangel, he rules over, and he sends midwayers and communicators in order to send messages down to us, like through the associate there of Sadler. And again, if you go and you look into this stuff, and then you have an idea of like how Mormonism and stuff. I use Mormonism because it really is. I mean, there's so many parts that line up together from this book and that book, but this book reaches far and beyond just Mormonism. And again, this book is held as like a Bible to a lot of people, which is, again, nuts for us to think about, but the deception and the seduction of this stuff. I mean, when you have people who aren't grounded in Christ, who are seeking something more, and somebody promises them you can be like God, a lot of people get seduced into whatever comes. It's the same thing with like cults. If you look at some of these cults on the outside, you look and go, wow, these people are out of their minds. But for the people who are in there, it's a seducing factor. Not only were they seduced to even join, but then they were seduced to start believing in it. And there's nothing more difficult than trying to pull somebody out of a cult, because there's a spiritual chain, a lock and chain on them that you just can't break through. And we see it in other elements, like Catholicism, the NAR, New Apostolic Reformation, Mormonism, Jehovah's Witness, you see that lock and key put on them. There's something there that seduces them. It's the same spirit that's seducing these people is the same spirit that seduced people like John Jr. and the Fosdick brothers and Barbara Marx Hubbard and the Rothschilds and these other people. It's that same spirit that seduces them. Now, one of the men who assisted Sadler with this was his spiritual mentor, John Harvey Kellogg. Yes, the co-inventor of the cornflake was William Sadler's spiritual mentor, and John Harvey Kellogg helped Sadler with the Urantia papers, that book, the same stuff that we were just talking about. I kid you not. Kellogg, a lot of people don't know about this guy, was a eugenics supporter, a racial segregation advocate, and was a spiritual New Ager. He believed in the holistic view of health and spirituality. He pursued holistic wellness, which led him to the creation of Corn Flakes. And here's your crazy trivia question or trivia piece today. Christmas is coming up. Wow, your family at the dinner table if you want to. But it was this holistic wellness approach from John Harvey Kellogg that led him to purposely design cornflakes to be bland and replace meat for breakfast, because at the time meat was a staple of breakfast. Replace meat for breakfast in order to reduce the sexual drive of men. He believed that the cornflake was the holistic medicine to stop masturbation. Kid you not. Cornflakes were designed to smack down carnal desire. That's why he created cornflakes. And it comes from his holistic New Age spirituality. I can't just, honestly, some people might think this is a joke, and it kind of is, but I'm also kind of curious. I wonder if that was like the recipe of cornflakes was handed down through William Sadler's cosmic guy. You just never know. I'm just saying, you just never know. So the Urantia Book is built to supersede the Bible and holds similar principles to Mormonism. It also teaches that Jesus was born of normal birth, not virgin birth, and claims that there are many more Christs in the universe, in the cosmos, and so on. They call them creator sons. And again, this is where it kind of starts looking like a Mormonism thing, because if there's so many out there and they're out there creating planets and doing all these things, you're starting to fall in line with Mormonism, where they believe that they will do the same thing. As we know, that's fallacy, because the Bible clearly states that Jesus is the one and only begotten Son, and no one gets to the Father, not a father, to the Father, except through him. So we understand that that's just straight lie. And to get an even better understanding of the Urantia Foundation, this was like a 7-minute video. No, we're not going to watch the 7 minutes. I clipped down what I thought was important. So here's the propaganda. We'll just put it out that way. The propaganda from the Urantia Foundation and what they believe. This is the stuff that the book is teaching people, and people are eating this up. Check this out.
The Urantia Book tells us that the search for God is the unstinted bestowal of love, attended by amazing discoveries of new and greater love to be bestowed. It takes thousands of years of training before an angel can minister alongside a mortal. Before Adam and Eve's mission, they spent 15,000 years in the trial and testing physical laboratories on Jerusalem. And long before that, they had been teachers in the citizenship schools for new arrivals. It took 1 billion years for our Creator Son to meet us where we are. And after all that preparation by these brilliant beings, they literally became one of us. Well, we can do that. We don't have to believe in love to be loved. We don't have to have a prior belief to experience it. But the more of God one brings to the table of all faiths, the more of God all can come to believe in. In proximity, we're told that God dwells in two places, on paradise and within each one of us. So if your desire is to know and experience God more fully, you really don't have to look much further than the faith experience of the person that's standing right next to you. The big prize we receive from interacting with the faith experiences of others is that we learn more about and become closer to the very God we're seeking. Various theologies may have become old and outdated, but they continue to inspire many who seek God. In the religions of the world, there still exists much that we can learn from and contribute to. A journey through interfaith in the world's religions will just make it clearer that regardless of one's faith, religion, background, environment, etc., that if one truly and sincerely seeks to know and become more like God, that no matter what the circumstances, it won't be denied them.
So here's the thing, guys. We can sit there, we can watch that, we can listen to that, and just go, wow, you just pulled that out of nowhere. You just came up with some random stuff. It's all trash, it's all garbage and whatnot. But there are countless people who believe in that. And we have to understand that we can't just sit there and just go, well, that's just a load of crap. You need to believe this instead. They're not going to go along with that because you are at that point insulting what they believe. You have to try and find a way to break through that lock and chain that seduces them to something like that to get them to Jesus. And we have to, again, be well prepared. Because if, again, we don't know where this stuff comes from, we don't know how it's coming together, if we don't know why it's coming together, if we don't know these things, we're not well equipped to go out and try and maybe teach that person some truth and break through that lock and chain. We can sit there and throw all the political stuff. Oh, you're just following something woke and you're just following something crazy. Well, you need to follow this instead. You're not going to get through to them that way. But that's the surface level stuff that we continue to get caught up in every day that makes us ignore where this stuff comes from. That's why we talk about this. That's why it's so important. That's why it's sad that people don't talk about this. They're uninterested in it. They don't care about it. They just want to talk about the next big flashy headline that pops up on the screen. And I get it. There's a lot of stuff that can draw our attention, that can make us go, ignore things. But we can't be falling into that trap. We still have work to do here. I know we're in this time, and trust me, I get it. I do. We're in this time where we know we are in the season for this rapture to happen. And so we can take up all of our time looking for that rapture, the signs of it, rather than what we're commanded to do, which is to warn people and get people to Jesus. We can get, I know this is such a weird way of saying it, but we can get distracted by the events that are pointing to Bible prophecy. We can. And it can hinder what we really need to be doing right now. And so that's, again, why we talk about this subject. That's why we go through things like we just went through tonight, where there's so many names and dates and groups that just, why are we talking about these people? What does this have to do with anything? Well, because now we know where some of this stuff is rooted from, where it's coming from. And again, we can use that as our advantage to hopefully draw somebody out. Because if you can go deep into the roots of where this stuff comes from, you might be able to rattle that chain just a little bit for them to maybe start looking into things on their own. That's why I think it's so important. That's why I think Satan doesn't want us looking at this stuff. That's why I think a lot of this stuff is so hidden that you're not going to find an Encyclopedia Britannica or a Wikipedia page or something like that. Because it reveals truth. And Satan wants anything, he's going to do anything he can to stomp it out. So just keep that in mind if you do come across a New Ager that believes in something like that, where on our end we go, wow, that's cuckoo crazy. You know, one who flew over the cuckoo's nest type of thing. But we can't approach it from that angle because they're instantly going to throw that wall up. Find a way to work around it. It's kind of weird coming from somebody like me who's just pretty blunt and upfront about things, but hey, we all got to learn, right? Myself included. I know we covered a lot, and I understand many wonder why on earth we talk about random things like this. These are the people who helped expand a growing movement, and that movement is mystery religion. False teachings and heresy, New Age mystery religion, the same agendas that have helped establish beast system policies in the modern church that is part of the great falling away that we see today. We can look at all these things happening today, but how and why did we get here? That's the important thing, because that's our ammunition. That's the thing that sets us apart from somebody knocking somebody because they're a Republican or a Democrat. That's what sets us apart from just screaming wokeism at things and expecting something to change. If we've got a more tactical approach, if we've got information that they may not realize, we can hit them in a different angle, hopefully one that's uncovered. You just never know what might happen. Remember, the Lord can do some pretty amazing things. Don't underestimate him.